guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachel Engelbarts, and tonight's video is a cozy fall cook, clean, and pamper with me. I was having a craving for just some comfort, cozy fall food, even though it was probably 90 degrees this day. I was pretending that it was nice and cool outside so that we could get cozy inside, and I picked a really delicious, actually pretty darn healthy. It's kind of like a pot pie type recipe, but it's more paleo based. And then also a pumpkin spice muffin that is actually dairy free, so it's pretty good for you, and it's also gluten free just by happenstance. Whenever I'm dovetailing a couple of different recipes, I like to write everything out in kind of a shorthand version of the recipe so I can look at it all at once. This is also earlier in the day, and anything I can pre-measure out to have ready to just dump in whatever I'm making, I go ahead and do that. So right now I am just measuring out the seasonings and spices that are going to be going into the shepherd's pie. And then when it comes time to actually make dinner and things are crazy, I have some of the work already done for me, and it just goes much more smoothly. So don't worry about the ingredients that I'm using or the amounts. I will link the recipes in the description box below, so those will be there for you. I just wanted to take a quick second here to welcome anybody who may be new. I'm so glad you decided to join my small little corner of YouTube over here. We started out as a vlogging channel with my family, and you can see one of my kids right there. She's taking a nap, and these are my twins. They are working on some coloring while I'm getting dinner prepped, but we started out as a vlogging channel with my husband and my kids, and we still have that. It's over at Brad and Rach, so I can link that for you below. But I decided to go ahead and spin off my own channel where I can just use it as my creative outlet. I love to share recipes and cleaning, organization, crafts, all kinds of stuff. So I'm having so much fun with it, and I'm so glad that you guys found me somehow, and I'm glad you decided to join. And I know it's a total blessing to still have comments enabled on my channel, so I just want you guys to take advantage of that and use the comment section to bounce ideas off of each other. One thing I would really love to know is how many kids do you have and what are their ages? I think that is just a really good way to figure out what stage of life you're in and what your daily life looks like, just based merely on how many kids you have and how old they are. This cutting board that I'm using, I picked up pretty recently. I've had it, I think, for a few months now, and it is literally one of my favorite kitchen gadgets, and I use it every single day. I just got it on Amazon, but it is cutting surfaces that you can just pull out and use for different types of food. So there's one for beef, one for poultry, one for vegetables and fruits and things like that. And so it just keeps the surfaces specific to the type of food that you're cutting on it. So I love it, and it just all stores very neatly inside it. And I'm also gonna look and see if they have one that's a smaller size so I can put one in the RV. One thing that I hope, if you don't already know this, you will learn from this video is that chicken broth can be very easily made at home using a chicken or beef powdered stock that you literally just add water and voila, you have chicken broth. This is one of my favorite candles. A few weeks ago I did an episode of all of my favorite things, which I will link in the description box below, and this candle is delicious smelling. And I'm making a mental note that I need to clean the stove. So all of the prepping that you saw before, the putting the spices together in bowls and cutting up the vegetables, I did earlier in the day. Now it is dinner time, and I'm going ahead and boiling the potatoes just to soften them up. and getting started making this delicious, cozy shepherd's pie. Another awesome kitchen gadget that I use all the time is this microwavable steamer. Anything I use frequently, I will try to link in the description box below. But this thing is amazing. You just put some water in the bottom, and then whatever you want to steam, you put in the tray on top and pop it in the microwave. And it's reusable, and it doesn't cause any waste in the environment, and I just love it. I use it all the time. I use it if I'm going to use like a harder vegetable or fruit and I want to puree it for Eloise, our 11-month-old, and I use it for steamed vegetables for dinner. Obviously tonight I'm using it for carrots that I'm going to put in the shepherd's pie, which reminds me, carrots are not in the original recipe. I just decided to add them at the last minute, so you may not see those in the recipe that I'm linking below. But you can add whatever vegetables you want to shepherd's pie. I am pretty horrible at dovetailing, but I attempt it frequently, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on the muffins because they are going to cook in the oven at about the same temperature as the shepherd's pie. So I'm going to go ahead and get those going while our sweet potatoes are boiling on the stove. And I used gluten-free flour. I have not used this flour before, but I was really impressed. So this was just the Bob's 1-to-1 gluten-free flour, and it worked really great, and the muffins turned out really good. The kids loved them. I ended up making an entire second batch to take in the RV with us this weekend. We ended up going camping as a whole family, and one dead giveaway that these muffins were really good is that my mom, who does intermittent fasting, broke her fast early to eat one of these muffins. So I take that as a compliment. The original recipe that I'm linking for you below calls for, I think, just granulated sugar. I ended up using a combination of granulated sugar and coconut sugar, and it turned out really good. So if you have coconut sugar on hand, don't be afraid to use that instead, and it will cut down on the refined sugar that's in this recipe. Interestingly, this recipe called for apple cider vinegar, which I have one that has the mother in it, whatever that means. And this turned out good enough that I actually think I'm going to be using this recipe to make Eloise's birthday cake. Her birthday is coming up this weekend, and we're doing a full-blown Very Hungry Caterpillar theme. Even though we aren't going to have that many people there, I just really enjoy decorating for her birthday party. It seems kind of silly because she's 1 year old, so she's definitely not going to remember any of this, but I don't know, I feel like her birthday at this age is more for me, I guess, like doing an official celebration. And it is emotional having my youngest turn 1 year old and not be an infant anymore, but it does soften the blow a little that I know I can decorate for her birthday and just go all out. So anyway, I think I'm going to use this recipe since she is dairy free. I think I'll use this recipe for her cake and her smash cake. Heading back over to our shepherd's pie, these have been boiling or simmering for about 10 minutes and they're nice and tender now, so I'm going to go ahead and drain them, and I'm just going to use this same pan to saute the onions that are going to go into the pie. I'm not a huge fan of log meat or rolled meat or tube meat or whatever you want to call this. So I guess my ideal would be to get meat that's sourced from a local farm. And I did find a local farm around here that I liked, and we got meat there for a while, and they actually deliver it to our door, which is great. But then they were completely out of stock of everything. So now I'm kind of back at square one trying to figure out where you're going to purchase our meat from. I will admit I completely missed that in the recipe you are supposed to saute your garlic with the onion, and so I just made a little space for my garlic and sauteed it after the fact. No big deal. And at this point in the recipe, it's just a matter of dumping all of the seasoning in and dumping the vegetables in and just kind of mixing everything together and getting it warmed up together at the same time until you put it in the oven. I love having stuff pre-measured, like I said before. It kind of makes me feel like a chef on TV, having the pretty little bowls with seasoning that I just get to dump into the recipe. I highly recommend you try it if you have not already. So by this point, I'm realizing that this bowl is way too small to be doing this, and I don't know why I couldn't just swallow my pride and get a larger bowl, but I just didn't want to dirty another dish. So I ended up using a bowl that I used before and transferred some of the sweet potato over to that and mashed it up over there. Maybe use a larger bowl than I did if you're going to plan on making this recipe. If you have some extra time and you want to get fancy, or you're serving this dinner to some guests, you can do a design in the top. I just kind of poked at it and made it a little bit scalloped, but you could really get creative and do something pretty on the top of this if you had the time to do that. And I wanted to leave this in here because I tried to put this in the oven, realized that top rack didn't have enough space for this casserole dish, which I don't know how I haven't figured that out yet. So then I had to move the muffins up to the top rack, almost dropped them. And then I was afraid the oven was losing so much heat having the door open that long, so in between each of these maneuvers I closed the door. I don't know if it's necessary to do that, but I don't know. It made me feel better in the moment. But thank goodness I had Lyndall here to help encourage me. And this is just a cinnamon sugar mixture that we're going to sprinkle on top of the muffins when they come out. I would recommend maybe using like Pam or a spray bottle with just water and just sort of moisten the top of the muffins before you do this. It sort of made a mess and it dribbled all over the place. And honestly, even if you just waited like an hour or two and let the muffins cool, they kind of develop a sort of stickiness to them, and the sugar might stick a little bit better if they're not right out of the oven. So here's the kids' plates. I just kind of separated out the meal for each of the 3 kids. My twins are 2.5 and Eloise is 11 months. So the twins have the Halloween plates and really did a good job eating this. They pretty much eat whatever we do. We very rarely make them something separate to eat. And Eloise definitely eats whatever we put in front of her. She's still at that age where she's a very easy person to feed because she just is eating everything. I just feel like the twins both take turns going through phases where they're a little bit pickier, but even then we still really try not to cater a meal just to them, and we just offer them what we're eating, and we try to make sure there's at least one thing on their plate that we know they like. And I know there are differing opinions on this, but we will try to make them at least taste everything on their plate. They don't have to eat it all, but most of the time when they taste it, they'll end up liking it. So we are at that part of the video now where I'm going to start cleaning everything up. Honestly, this was not that big of a mess. Most of the mess was just what was accumulated throughout the day. So yeah, as far as how delicious these meals were and also how few dishes they ended up causing, I definitely give high marks to both of these recipes. So this is like true parenting. I almost forgot that Brad and I had not even dished up our food yet and had not eaten. I guess I just went ahead and wiped down the counter to get that out of the way before Brad and I dished up our food. And most of the time, like, my goal is for all of us to sit down at the table together, but most of the time, by the time Brad and I get our food and sit down at the table, the twins are basically done eating. We can get a solid 10 minutes out of them just like sitting at the table and eating their food, and by that time, like, since we're helping baby Eloise eat, it just, like, we have not even sat down yet. So this is how ours turned out, and I decided to put ours in a bowl, which I was happy with that decision. You know what would have made it even more delicious was putting it on a biscuit to serve it. So pro tip, go ahead and make some biscuits and put this over a warm biscuit. What we try to do when we do our dishes in the evening is load up the dishwasher as much and as full as possible, and then hand wash the rest of the dishes. And then in the morning, the first thing we do is unload the dishwasher. It works pretty well that way, and we can easily fill up the entire dishwasher each day at least once. Luckily, I have a very hands-on husband, and this is usually something that he takes care of in the evenings, is doing the dishes. He has kind of his set chores, and we didn't even really talk about it. It just sort of happened, and that's just how we work well as a family. We have kind of our things that we usually take care of and do, and nobody has to nag or be asked or whatever. We just kind of do what we're responsible for. could probably feed a whole second family with the amount of food that is dropped on the table and on the floor every day. And I'm being a little bit facetious. I really try to collect off of the table things like pieces that are small enough that I can put in a Tupperware and feed to Eloise the next day, just to try not to be so wasteful and also kind of save time on meal prepping for her lunch, because a lot of times like the scraps and leftover food from dinner makes a perfect little lunch for her for the next day, or the twins' leftovers from lunch will be Eloise's lunch a little bit later. So it works out pretty well, but inevitably we're going to have a floor full of food that gets dropped throughout the day and a lot of caked on food underneath Eloise's chair. I try to mop every day. It ends up happening in reality maybe every other day, but there is usually a spill or two that happens during the day that I have to pull this mop out and just spot clean. I just love this mop. It's so light and quick and easy, and it has a hand trigger squirt bottle on it, so you can just put whatever solution you want in it and mop very quickly. You just pull it out, squirt the floor, and scrub, and it has a microfiber cloth on it, so it gets things pretty clean even if you just used water in it. Again, I will link that below if you are interested. And now that all the cleaning is done, it's time to dirty up some more dishes. Just kidding, but seriously. I'm gonna make a pumpkin spice latte, and I'm so excited. It was so delicious, and I can tell you that with confidence because I have already drank it and I'm about to make another one right now. It has very few ingredients. It actually called for pumpkin pie puree, but I had pumpkin pie mix left over from the recipe before for the pumpkin muffins, so I just used that and it was very good. Obviously going with a decaffeinated Nespresso pod, you just use any kind of coffee that you want and then you add the mixture to your coffee. Let's stand together, put a smile on our faces, fill us up with your grace and make us better. Happy days be our guest, happy days manifest. Let's stand together, put a smile on our faces. If we would have had whipped cream, that would have been like the cherry on top or the whipped cream on top. If you have whipped cream, I highly recommend putting that on first and then sprinkle with cinnamon and enjoy with a pumpkin spice muffin. Now that I have my pumpkin spice latte ready, I'm going to go ahead and wash my face and do a little bit of pampering while I enjoy my pumpkin spice latte to round out the evening. I'm standing waiting, patient, like an oak I will stay right here in this alley and be closer to home every hour, and the earth is gonna hold me, show my worthiness as we get closer to home. I think it is super important to find time, as busy as we are as moms, fulfilling everybody else's needs, filling everybody else's buckets. It is so important, and I need to listen to myself as I'm saying this, to find time for ourselves. I have mentioned before, and if you are not new to our family vlogging channel or this channel, that one of my favorite ways to do that is to do a detox mask. And that simply allows me to focus on myself for as long as it takes to apply a mask, allow it to dry, and then wash it off my face. And sometimes that's all you need to just kind of get in the mindset that you are important as well as your family. I have definitely mentioned this product before. This is the Teamy Green Tea Detox Mask. It has so many good components in it. It has matcha, it has lemongrass, and it has clay. And I have gone through each one of these ingredients and researched what specifically they benefit as far as your skin goes. They have anti-inflammatory properties, antimicrobial properties. That is really important to me as an eye doctor because I'm constantly seeing patients that have the overactive natural flora of bacteria that you have on your skin. Using a homeopathic way to sort of reduce the population of bacteria on your skin is something I recommend all the time. And that's something that I know that this green tea detox mask does, just based on the components that are in it. I have a few problem areas on my skin. You can kind of see it now. I have a stork bite right here, so I'm always putting concealer on this, but I will show you right after I use this mask every single time, this looks more subdued. Currently, I'm having a little bit of acne, just the inflammation and redness around my breakouts, which are few and far between usually, but if I do have them, this is something that can help just sort of reduce the appearance of that. I will give you a tip. The thicker you put this mask on, the longer it takes for it to completely dry. And one thing I love about this mask is that you will see results after just one use, which is amazing. It is gentle enough that you can use it multiple times a week. Back to applying it thicker, if you want a longer mommy break and you know that you have to wait until this mask completely dries to remove it and you need to like be out of the game for that amount of time, then apply it nice and thick. We are all dry. Before I start washing this off, you have to try this pumpkin spice latte. It's not super duper sweet, so it's really good with the muffin because the muffin is pretty darn sweet. Oh my gosh, together they're so good, so definitely try those. And I will go ahead and wash this off and then show you afterward how my skin looks. I'm always so impressed. I hope the camera does it justice. My skin just feels so soft and smooth, not tight. Like I have not even moisturized my face yet. The anti-inflammatory properties are just unreal. Thank you to Teamy for sponsoring today's video. Follow the link in the description box below and use code Engelbarts for 20% off your entire order. So that would include this mask. I also use the Teamy Greens cleanser, the blender, which I used earlier when we were making our pumpkin spice lattes. Did you like the pumpkin spice latte?
Yeah. So
it's so good.
Rachel first gave it to me cold.
Yeah, you might want to warm up the mixture that you add into the coffee.
Make
I forgot to say
warm,
that.
because it was the bomb when it was warm.
Yeah, but you could also probably put some ice cubes in it and have a iced pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, either iced or hot.
Not like lukewarm. Yeah, so it was really good. Definitely try that recipe.